Hi, I'm Dr. Chris Stevens, and this is the Psychology to Live By podcast. I often eat while distracted, and before I know it, the meal has disappeared. Where did it go? Do I remember eating it? How often does time go by like this without our awareness? Time distortion is a common feature of an altered state of consciousness. You might reasonably say we're altering consciousness every moment of every day, but we're going to focus on more pronounced and more unusual states of consciousness, including hypnosis, meditative states, being in flow, and everyday states of awe. All these states change time perception in various ways, distorting it from normal objective clock time. Of course, people have all kinds of strange experiences when taking drugs like psilocybin, peyote, LSD, and so on. Time can speed up, slow down, go backwards, or even stop. But we'll concentrate on more natural, everyday alterations to time perception. Every day, as in my eating example, we enter trance states. You might be waiting in a queue, looking into the middle distance with your eyes relaxed and unfocused. You drop into a daydream, and you suddenly come out of it when the person at the counter says, "Next." Being in this everyday trance, you were oblivious to the passing of time. Or a baby demonstrates everyday trance-induced catalepsy when they're absorbed in watching an entertaining screen. They're holding a spoon of food mid-air for minutes with no muscle fatigue. Evidence suggests that hypnosis distorts time perception. More precisely, hypnosis compresses time perception in retrospective duration judgments. That is, judgments of how much time has passed made after the trance passed. This causes us to under-evaluate how much time has passed. If you ask people, how long was that? They typically underestimate the time. But the same person will dilate time in the case of prospective duration judgments. When a person in trance indicates when they think a specific time duration has passed, they over-evaluate how long a set amount of time is. So when you ask them, tell us when the amount of time is up, they tend to wait longer than objective time to tell you. Now, it's not really understood how these effects take place. In hypnosis, external stimuli are sometimes not perceived or are perceived in altered form. But the inner experience often includes vivid, complex and lengthy sequences of events which are felt as being at normal speed, but which actually occupy very little time in the real world. So what are some real-world applications of this? If you want to expand your sense of time, pay attention to rich detail in the present moment and then shift it to the big picture, then shift again to the details of something else, each time drawing your attention to the passage of time itself. Most people notice that time seems to expand when they're in this kind of state. Strangely, in recalling it later, you'll judge the experience went by faster than it did. This brings us to meditation. The most common experience of time distortion in meditation is also the expansion of time. Within the meditative state, time often appears to slow down. Why might that be? Well, in mindfulness practices, we focus on processing a moment rather than letting it slip by mindlessly. And this enables us to better apprehend its uniqueness rather than chunking it in terms of previous patterns of experience or what we know already. So there are more frames of experience we're aware of. The more frames, the more time it feels is passing us by. And paying attention to greater and greater detail may be a way to reverse the age-related tendency for time to speed up as we age. When we're older, we may feel everything similar to what we've experienced in the past. So time passes unpunctuated by a sense of novelty and richness. By expanding this sense of novelty and richness, we may be able to experience a fuller and richer day, and it will feel as a result less like time got away from me. Retrospectively speaking, We'll have a lot more to remember, and so we'll feel our life is fuller and not speeding by unnoticed. So why is this so? Well, our mind perceives time depending on how we're feeling, how demanding or how much attention the activity requires, and how complex and how many events have happened. The more a task requires of our attention, the more we tend to judge time to be longer, and we actually overestimate the passing of time. So if we apply those three conditions to mindfulness practice, it ticks all the boxes. In developing calm emotions, experience tends to slow down. In ramping up our attention, we notice more and more complexity within ordinary experience, and that expands the richness of moment-to-moment experience, which is therefore remembered as more spacious. In these three ways, meditation resensitizes us to simple things and acts as an antidote to the speed of modern life. So, perhaps at your next meal, you can see what happens if you eliminate all distractions. No reading, no podcast, perhaps even no conversation. Just really pay attention to all aspects of eating: taste, texture, smell, sound, swallowing, etc. What you will almost certainly find is that you eat a little slower, enjoy the meal more, and retrospectively, you'll feel that the meal didn't disappear in the blink of an eye, but that it was a longer, more leisurely experience. Finally, let's talk about awe. Awe is the feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends you and your current understandings of the world. According to Dasha Keltner, in his book entitled Awe, we can find awe in the 8 wonders of life: moral beauty of others, collective effervescence or heightened group emotions, experiences with nature, music, visual design, spirituality and religion, experiences concerning life and death, and experiences of epiphany or insight. Well, no matter the source, a key feature of awe is feeling very present, so focused on the here and now that time expands. Intentionally cultivating experiences of awe not only makes us feel more time affluent, but it also helps us experience greater life satisfaction and meaning. So we ought to turn our attention to awe-inspiring things on a daily basis. Our experience is largely determined by what we pay attention to. So, given the multiple and always available sources of awe, purposefully shift your attention to them today. And as we'll see in the next podcast, this strategy may also mean giving us a more spacious sense of time affluence as we get older. You've been listening to the Psychology to Live By podcast. If you'd like to know more, my website is www.drchris.life. And if you like the podcast, share it with people you like so they can like it too.